Hi there. In this particular video, we are going to understand about currency swaps. See, the whole idea about currency swaps is there are two point of things that we need to understand. One is the exact same way how we were calculating the price and the value for other derivative contracts. We are going to do it in the exact same way for currency swaps as well. However, there is one differentiating point that I want all of you to know and all of you to remember, because it is more often than not tested in the examination in one way or the other. That in the currency swaps, that notional principle actually changes hands. All right. Otherwise, in all the derivative contracts that we've learned so far, the notional principle does not really change hands. But in the case of currency swaps, the notional principle actually changes hands. So we need to be very sure with this that there is only one derivative contract in which the notional principle is exchanging hands, and all the other derivative contracts that we have learned so far, there is no exchange of the notional principle that we generally speak about. Alright, so there, as I told you, there are two things that we need to learn. We need to learn about the price, alright, and the second thing that we need to learn about is the value. Alright, so we'll learn how exactly we need to calculate the price and at the very same time value, as in the profit or loss to either of the one party that we have. And the second thing is about notional principle. Alright. Okay. So moving ahead, first of all, we'll understand what exactly currency swap is. So there is company A, say for example, sitting in the US, and there's company B, for example, sitting in the UK. Alright. Company A wants to borrow money in GBP, that is Great Britain pound. Alright. So they'll try to approach the bank in the UK, and likewise company B, which sits in UK, wants to borrow some funds in terms of dollars. All right, so they'll likely approach the bank in the US. But what will happen here is, for the bank in the UK, company A, which is based out of the US, the since the company is coming out of from some other geography. All right, the risk for this particular bank would be on the higher side, and it may be the case that the bank might not allow or might not give the loan. All right, and if it gives, it will give it at a higher interest rate. All right, so that is one thing that is prevalent when we do such kind of borrowings. And likewise for company B as well, which wants to borrow from the US in terms of dollars. All right, the bank in the US might not agree to lend that money, or even if it does, they might lend it at a higher interest rate. So that is something that we need to understand, that the risk or the interest rate that both these companies would face, given that they go and borrow the money directly, would be on the higher side. Alright, so that is something that we need to understand. So what is the solution here? The solution is very simple. Company A would borrow the money from the US bank and give it to company B, and company B will borrow the money from the bank in the UK and give it to company A. Alright, why we are doing this arrangement? Because the bank in the US would give the loan to company A at a cheaper rate. Alright, since the company is in US, there is an existence of the company in the US, there's a past record of it. So the loan amount would be sanctioned easily for company A from the bank in the US, and likewise for company B, which sits in the UK, to get a loan from the UK is much easier. And once these two companies get the loans from the respective banks, what they can do is they can exchange that loan, alright, or they can swap that loan amount. So that is something that we need to understand, and based on that only we establish currency swap. So what exactly is happening here? The company A will borrow money in terms of dollars, all right, and will pass that money to company B, all right. So the dollar loan is passed on. Likewise, company B borrows money from the bank in the UK, all right. So that will be in GBP, and will pass it on that amount to company A. Alright, so that will happen at time period 0 for both these companies. Alright, so that is something that is simple. Now what really we need to understand is how the interest payment and the final principal payment, that is at the end of the loan amount, would be repaid. Alright, so company B, alright, company B will, now company B has loan in terms of what? In terms of dollars, alright, indirectly. So company would start paying interest amount in dollar terms, alright, and at the same time would pay the principal amount at the end of the contract. And likewise company A would start paying the interest amount in GBP, alright, to company B, and then indirectly to bank in the UK. And at the very same time, at the end of the contract, company A would pay the principal amount as well to the bank in the UK via company B in terms of GBP. Alright, so there are two to three transactions that we need to remember. One is at time period 0 when we are borrowing the principal amount indirectly from the other bank in the other country. Secondly, the interest amount that we are paying regularly. Alright, and thirdly, the principal amount or principal repayment that I would rather say that we are doing at the end of the tenure. So this is exactly what currency swaps are, where one company or one party is giving loan to the other party in a certain currency and the other party is giving loan to the first party in some other currency. Alright, right now what we are going to discuss is a fixed for fixed swap. Alright, what is fixed for fixed swap? In both the currencies that we are going to discuss, alright, the rate is going to be a fixed rate. Alright, the rate is going to be a fixed rate. We are not going to consider floating side in either of the two currencies. Alright, so it is going to be fixed for fixed. Otherwise, there could have been four possible cases: fixed for fixed, floating for floating, fixed for floating, floating for fixed. Alright, but we are only considering the first one, that is fixed for fixed. Alright, rest all are out of our curriculum and we don't really need to discuss those. So starting with it, I'll take an example. All right, it is a continuation of what we studied before. This previous same example, I'll be taking it forward, and we'll understand how exactly things work. So consider two currencies, the USD and the GBP, where the exchange rate is $2 per pound. Where the exchange rate is $2 per pound. We have to adjust the notional principal using the current currency exchange rates. If the notional principal on the dollar side of the swap is $25 million, the notional principal will be $12.5 million. Alright, so this is an example that is given to us, that in case if the notional principal on the dollar side is 25 million, then on the GBP side it will be 12.5 million. Why? Because $2 is equal to 1 pound. Alright, that is something that we need to understand. Let's understand the example ahead. Continuing the previous example, the example that we already did for the interest rate swap, alright, where we had the SFR at 4.4%. Alright, the very same example we'll be considering here, and then we'll include the other currency leg as well in this question. So continuing with the previous example, fixed rate USD was 1.1% quarterly and 4.4% on an annual basis. Alright, this is something that we had already done. This is what in terms of USD. The LIBOR rates to determine these particular SFR in dollar were as follows. Alright, so we had used these LIBORs and we had arrived at the number of 1.1% quarterly and 4.4% on an annual basis. Alright, so this is how exactly it works out. Now what we need to do, so we already have the fixed rate in terms of what? In terms of dollars. Alright, the rate that is applicable in terms of dollars is something that we already have. What we need to figure out is the fixed rate in terms of what? In terms of GBP. Alright, what should be the swap rate for the other side or the other currency that we have, that is GBP, and that is something that we need to calculate, for which we are given the comparable LIBOR rates in terms of GBP, and the rates are for 90 days it is 0.04, for 180 days it is 0.05, for 270 and for 360 days it is 0.06 and 0.07 likewise. Alright, so again things are being done quarterly. Alright, it is already mentioned to us in the question that there will be an exchange of the interest payment between the two parties on a quarterly basis. Alright, on the 90th day we'll see one particular company giving the interest amount to the another company in one particular currency, and while the other currency also repays in the other currency. Alright, however, there is going to be some principal exchange that is going to take place at time period 0. That is something that we need to consider as well. Alright, so this is something that you must have understood so far. Now what we are asked in this question is determine the fixed rate on a 1 year bond GBP interest rate swap. Alright, so we are already given for the dollar terms. Now we need to figure it out for the GBP terms. So for that we need to have the different Z values. Alright, so Z for 90 days is something that we need to calculate. 1 upon 1 plus the rate that we had was 0.04. 0.04 into 90 upon 360. Alright, so that would be 0.04 divided by 4 plus 1. 0.9901. Alright, then we have it for 180 days. So Z for 180 days would be 1 upon 1 plus 5% into 180 by 360. Alright, so that would be 0.05 divided by 2 plus 1. 0.9756. Likewise, we need to calculate the Zs for 270 and 360 day as well. Those who have calculated it, they can simply move the video forward and they can really start doing the other things as well. So for Z 270 in GBP terms, it would be 1 upon 1 plus 0.06 270 upon 360. So that would be 270 divided by 360 into 0.06 plus 1. That would be 0.9569. Alright, and Z360 would be 1 upon 1.07. 0.9346. 0.9346. Alright, 0.9346 from the calculator. Okay, we have all these numbers now. Now what we need to figure out is the SFR. Alright, so the SFR would be nothing but 1 minus the last value, that is 0.9346. You divided by the sum of all the numbers. So the sum of all the numbers would be 0.9901 plus 0.9756 plus 0.9569 plus 0.93446. 3.8572. 3.8572. Alright, and you multiply 1 minus 0.9346 divided by 3.8572. That is 1.7%. Alright, so we have gotten the rate as 1.7%. This rate is in what? Is in quarterly terms, goes without saying. Now we need to multiply it by 4 to figure it out in terms of annual terms. So that would be somewhere around 6.8%. Alright, that would be 6.8%. So I multiplied it by 4. 1.7 into 4, you get the number as 6.8%. So this is exactly how the fixed rate calculation works. It was exactly the same way how we did it for interest rate swap. Alright, because till now what we need is the fixed rates. What we need is the fixed rate. Why? Because we need to make sure that at time period 0 the value is 0. Alright, to make sure that the value is 0, we need to have two fixed rates in such a way that makes sure that the value is 0 at time period 0. So we already had it for dollar terms. Now we did it for our GBP part as well. So that is done. Now the second thing that is asked in the question is determine the notional principal amount. Alright, so the notional principal amount at time period 0. Alright, that amount that would be exchanging hands. It's pretty simple to calculate. We need to have the notional principal in terms of USD. Alright, and that principal amount we need to multiply it by the current exchange rate. Alright, that principal amount we need to multiply it by the current exchange rate. So I guess we had $5 million as a notional principal. If you look back at the question, so that would be 5 million multiplied by 0.5. So that would be 5 multiplied by 0.5, 2.5 million. The amount is how much? The amount is 2.5 million GBP. Alright, so this is exactly how notional principal calculation takes place. So this is something that we have calculated, that notional principal amount. Now we need to figure out the quarterly cash flow on a pay dollar fixed and receive GBP fixed currency swap. Alright, so the quarterly cash flows which the two companies, company A and company B, are going to exchange with each other. Quarterly cash flows, so we are talking about the interest amounts. Alright, so we had 1.1% already for the USD part. Now we have 1.7% as well for the GBP part. So the respective interest rates with the respective principals is something that we need to multiply. Alright, so for USD it would be 1.1% multiplied by 5 million. So when we do 1.1%, basically what we are doing is 0.011 into 5 million. So 5 million into 0.01. That would be 55,000. Alright, so $55,000. And for our GBP part, it would be the number that we had was 1.7%, so that would be 0.017. See, I'm already using the quarterly rates. Alright, so that gets multiplied by 2.5 million. So that would be 0.017 multiplied by 2.5 million. So that would be 42,500 GBP. Alright, 42,500 GBP. So this is exactly how things work around. Alright, so you need to understand that the quarterly payments are calculated with the swap rate that we calculate. Alright, so we have done that. Now the next thing that the question is asking us is nothing. Alright, so we have solved everything. So far so good. We have calculated the fixed rate, we have calculated the notional principal, and at the very same time, we have calculated the quarterly cash flows as well. So the person who is paying fixed dollar pays how much? Pays 55,000, and that very same person would be receiving GBP fixed, that would be 42,500 GBP. Alright, so this is a simple cash flow transaction that we need to understand. Now the next question is about, definitely going to be about value, because for all questions we have been doing it in the very same way. We have been arriving at the value for price first and then value later on. So after 300 days, the 60-day dollar interest rate is 5.4%, and the 60-day GBP interest rate is 6.6%, and the exchange rate has also changed to 0.52 pounds per dollar. Calculate the value of $5 million swap to the counterparty that receives dollar and pays pound fixed. Alright, that receives dollars and pays pound fixed. So we are standing where? We are standing on the 300th day. Now there is a minute difference in how we calculate the value when we are talking about currency swaps. Alright, in currency swaps, what we need to do to arrive at the value is we need to look at where we are right now. So we are at 300th day, and whatever cash flows that are going to come in the future. Alright, right now there is only one point in time where the cash flows would be coming in. There will be two cash flows. There will be interest as well as the principal amount that would be coming in for both the sides. Alright, we need to use these cash flows and bring them back to this particular time period, and while bringing them back we need to use the current rate that is given to us, all right, in the respective currencies. All right, so we know that if we are talking about dollars, so for dollars there will be 55,000 of interest amount that will be paid, and at the very same time there will be a principal amount of 5 million as well. So that is something that we need to consider at this time period and bring it back to 300th day using this particular interest rate. And likewise, we know that the interest amount of, in terms of GBP is 42,500. Along with that, we need to consider the $2.5 million principal, 2.5 million GBP principal, and bring it back to 300th day using this particular rate. And then we can compare the values after we convert one particular currency in the other one. So we'll understand it with the example. So stay with me. Let's do it for dollar terms first. All right, let's do it for the dollar terms first. So the interest amount that we are going to receive is 55,000, and the principal that we have is 5 million. Alright, so that would be 5055,000. Alright, that we need to do what? That we need to discount it. By how much? By the rate, that is 1 plus 0.054 into 60 upon 360. Alright, so that would be 0.054 multiplied by 60 upon 360 plus 1. You divide that, and then you multiply by 5055,000. That would be 500,911 rather. Alright, this is in dollar terms, and likewise you need to do it for GBP as well. So the amount is 42,500 plus the notional principal that we had. So that would be 2,500,000 plus 42,500. That would be 2542500. All right, divided by 1 plus 0.066 into 60 upon 360. All right, so let's see that 0.066 into 60 divided by 360 plus 1 by x multiplied by 2542500. That is 2514837. Alright, this is in terms of what? In terms of GBP. Now what we need to do is we need to see the person who is receiving fixed dollar is receiving this amount. Alright, the value that he is receiving is this, because and the person who is paying and the very same person will be paying GBP. Alright, so one thing that we need to understand is right now both the terms in which these two amounts are in different currencies. Alright, this is in dollars and this is in GBP. So we'll be converting this into this. Alright, to do that, this is in GBP terms. Alright, and the exchange rate that we have is 0.52 per dollar. So to convert pound into dollars, see the amount will get bigger. Alright, So we'll be dividing this number with 2514837 by 0.52. Let the existing rate that we have. So let's do that. That is 4836224, or 225 rather. Alright, so this is the amount that we have gotten in dollar terms. Alright, now both the amounts are in dollar terms. This is the amount the person or the party that we are asked in the question is receiving, and this is the amount that the person or the party that we are asked in the question is paying. Now the difference of that would be the value for him. So minus 5009911. So the value is nothing but 173,686. Alright, this is the value, the final value. It is positive because this is what he is receiving and this is what he is paying. Alright, he is receiving dollar fixed, so he is receiving this dollar amount, and this is the GBP amount which we have converted into dollar terms. So the difference is 173,866. Alright, so this is the final answer that we have arrived at. And this is how you need to work out your calculations. So make sure you are very thorough with at what point in what point of the timeline you are, and based on that you need to make sure that you do your calculations a few digits at the end. Alright, you might see in the book the answer is 173,682,173,680. Those numbers are fine because that approximation happens because of the decimal approximations that we are taking. I've taken it up to 4 decimal places. If you're doing it till 6, you'll get a more precise answer, goes without saying. However, if you're doing it till 4, you're good to go. Alright, so that is something that I wanted you to understand. With this, we complete currency swaps. The last contract that we are left with now is equity swaps. Alright, that is something that again we'll be switching back to whiteboard and we'll be understanding it there. For currency swaps, there was a lot to make you understand, and using a whiteboard wouldn't have been enough, and that is why I shifted to this particular mode. I hope you enjoyed learning from this particular mode as well, and we'll be shifting back to equity swaps and understand how exactly it works there. Thank you.